Okay, so I'm going to do part number 1, uh, explain the most common mistakes. And the most common mistake on this problem was a misunderstanding of what the negative 5 squared is. If you have a quantity squared, you are understanding that this is that quantity times itself. But what you're squaring is the quantity. So if I have like a plus b, and I have a parenthesis around it, well, this means a plus b times a plus b, right? And you have to multiply out and have 4 terms. But if you want to square a quantity that's negative, I also need parentheses, in the sense that if I want to square the number -5, I would need this. This means -5 times -5. So this is a positive 25. Now what we have up here is not that. There is no parentheses. And I think the confusion comes from a misunderstanding of, or a misuse of the order operations. So if you remember from your previous classes, there's something called the order operations, and we have this way to remember them. We have PEMDAS, which stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So when you read a quantity like -5 squared, there are no parentheses. There is an exponent, and you do that part first. This -5, you must read it like a -1 that's actually multiplying what's in front of it. So in that sense, this comes after the exponent. So this really means a negative, if you want to put a -1, times 25. So that was the misunderstanding up here. This, if we solve this, the top becomes a -25. The root of 100, of course, is 10, and that stays negative because the negative is in front of the root. And that's, well, one of the common mistakes that happened in this one. Now the other common error happened over here was in the denominator. Because we have a square root and a sum inside the square root. So inside the square root, I cannot separate the square root. If you have a quantity 4 squared plus 3 squared, well, this means inside the root you have a 16 plus a 9. And that is the root of a 25, which turns out to be just a nice 5. What a few of you did is you thought that this, you could break it up like root of 16 plus root of 9. Sorry, root of 16, root of 9, which is a 4 plus a 3. And as you can see, well, that's not the same. Which one of the two sides is wrong? This is wrong. Yeah. You should add this quantity first, then take the square root of that quantity and get a 5. So the answer for our question here was this is the root of a 25. Oops, sorry, let me change that back to blue. This is the root of a 25, once you have them. So at the end, let me see if I can erase this. Sometimes the erasers don't work great, and it's not erasing anymore, so I'm going to have trouble. I can erase here. So I can, this becomes, so the numerator becomes a -35, the bottom becomes a positive 5, so the answer is a -7. Okay, so be careful with those parentheses if you don't have them. And this error, you cannot open up a square root. That's going to happen again. Okay, now on B of this, you have another mistake. Basically, it was the same thing. This quantity is not -3 squared. If I wanted that, you would need parentheses. This, with no doubt, is -3 times -3, which gives you a positive 9. But this is not that. This is negative 3 times 3. Or negative 1 like I wrote before. So this becomes a negative 9. So of all these 6 numbers, this is the smallest. Because that's the only one that is negative. So many of you got this problem wrong because of this. Okay, I'll post more problems.